Hi, it's me. I was thinking about my triggers for my OCD today and how I've worked over the years to try to hone in on them. I've had OCDs for as long as I can remember. I remember being about 6 years old and eating a bowl of cereal and not wanting pieces of cereal to go down and be eaten or killed, as I called it, by itself. So I would only eat things in like twos or in fours. I always tried to stay away from the number six because I always perceived that as the devil's number. Um, Seven was God's number in my eyes, but seven was an odd number. So I've always had like a fear of odd numbers. So numbers have always been a thing for me. And I've struggled with my OCD for as long as I can remember. With me, it's always like been a fear of um, stoves, kitchen stoves, um, checking them religiously, always making sure that the pilot lights were lit, always making sure that the burners were all turned, or the little knobs were all turned off, and I mean perfectly off. It couldn't be like partially off, it had to be completely off. And I would stand there and check them until I was like bloodshot in my eyes, so tired um, that I physically couldn't sleep anymore or stand anymore. I was so sleep deprived. And I realized it was a problem, and I was like, Kelly, this is getting ridiculous. So I finally decided that I would open up and talk to my therapist about it. And that's when I finally figured out it was a name for what I had, and it was OCD, which stands for obsessive compulsive disorder, if anyone doesn't know what that is. Um, I joke about it for, years with close loved ones. But when I was first diagnosed, it was confusing to me. And it didn't give me a lot of comfort to know that there was a name for it. It was even more confusing to me. It took me years to process that it was a measure of control for me. And there was safety in that control. I get it now as an adult, but I think at the time when I was diagnosed, I didn't quite understand it. I always thought it was just normal, and I thought it was kind of a quirk of mine, and I didn't really understand it. And it seems like everyone has it now. Sometimes it kind of ticks me off when I hear people make little jokes about it. Like if they're double checking things, they're like, oh, forgive me, I'm OCD. People just throw it around nonchalantly like it's not a big deal. Like it's just, people say it. I don't think they mean to offend anyone, and I don't want to be considered a snowflake or, oversensitive or anything, but, it's a trigger for me. So I've worked really hard over the years in counseling to get a hold of my OCD. But it was really important for me when I was talking to my counselors with it that they never cure me of my OCD, because OCD is part of who I am, and it's a coping mechanism for me, and it gives me comfort and gives me a sort of control that I need, at least in my mind, for some sort of stability, and a sense of control, and keeps me calm. So what we decided we would do is we would settle on a set of numbers, an amount of time that I would allow myself to check things. That would be a limit that I would set myself at, so that I could both use the numbers, excuse me, my nose itches, use a set of numbers of how many times I would be safe for me to check something without going overboard with it, so that I could still have my control, but it wouldn't be so out of control. So we set a number, and I was good on it for a while. But I notice when things in my life get really stressful, the number starts going up, 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 and it starts to loosen the reins a little. And lately, things have been particularly stressful in my life. Been going through a lot of change, and those certain triggers make me revert back to old habits. And I've noticed that my number of my safety number that I allowed myself to like give myself, say, I'm not going to check things more than 5 times, that the number was going up, 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 up. So I noticed that it was getting a little out of hand. So I was sort of like, Kelly, this is kind of getting out of control. I don't know what I should do. So I was just thinking about that, how like I set a number and then the number just went down some and then went back up some. But I think it's okay to have safety numbers, that you give yourself to kind of like keep yourself in check and stuff. But it's just funny how numbers are just a trigger for me. And I've always like hated the number 6. And then I hated the number 3 because 3 could be added up and times by 2 to make 6. It's just a weird number that it like always just stuck in my head. There's something wrong with the number 6, which is totally irrational, I know, but it's just things that stick with you in your mind, And there's so many other quirks that come with my OCD, but the numbers were always a trigger for me, and the stove was always a trigger for me. But recently, I've been told that there is a facility that works just with obsessive compulsive disorders, where I would have to leave my therapist that I'm at now because no one there is trained to deal with just the obsessive compulsive disorders. And I could go to a place.
What's this? What's happening? What's going on?
My phone. Sorry about that. That's Karen Walker from Will and Grace, if anyone was wondering what that was. Where I would be able to move from my therapist to a new set of therapists that would work with me hand in hand with my obsessive compulsive disorder. And I've really been thinking about doing it ever since they talked to me about it. For me, that's change, and change is scary, but change is good, and change is necessary sometimes. So it's something I've been contemplating, and I figured, why not make a video of it and put it here on YouTube and see if anyone out there that might be listening to one of my videos has anything similar that they go through with obsessive compulsive disorder and what their quirks were, and if they could relate to the numbers or knew anything about therapists. Sorry about that. I get a little nervous. It's still really new to me to be videotaping or videoing myself. If anyone knew of these type of therapists that just worked strictly with obsessive compulsive disorders, if they had any experiences with that and what their experience would be, if anyone wanted to just leave any thoughts or comments on that. If you hear something that sounds like gunshots in the background, it's July 3rd. So, of course, tomorrow's the 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. So that's what you're hearing in the back. I don't live in the greatest of areas, but it's not gunshots, thank goodness. I wouldn't be sitting here just mindlessly talking on my telephone if there were gunshots. I would do the right thing and get off the phone and stop recording and actually inquire and make sure everything was okay and call the police and do what I had to do to make sure everything was okay. But now I'm rambling about something else. But this is my 3rd day of actually consistently making videos. So I didn't want to come in rehearsed and decide what I want to talk about. I just thought my work today, it was an extremely hot day. I hate the heat. Having curly hair is really difficult in the heat. Being someone that just loves fall and winter, I'm not a fan of the heat either. So I hate sweating, and I was sweating all day, and my anxiety was up because of the heat and anticipating sweating at work. I work in a really hot place with no air conditioning. So that brought on my triggers for my OCD. Sorry about that. The backlighting went. So that got me thinking about my OCD and my symptoms. So, at any rate, I'll stop blabbing now. I thank you all who stopped to watch this video, and I'll talk to you real soon. Take care. Good night.